From Madrid, I'm joined now by Fernando Fernandez. He is a professor of economics at the IE Business School. And here in London with me is Fernando Acuna. He is managing partner at Taurus Iberica Asset Management. Welcome to you both. If I could begin with you, Fernando, if we look at what's been happening here, we've seen this big victory, and we did expect this morning we saw the borrowing yields come off. There does not seem to be an awful lot of confidence in the market that enough can be done. To you, what are the main issues that need to be tackled straight away?
Well, I think the market knew that this was going to happen, so I think nothing new had happened yet. I think that what the market is expecting is what are the ministers coming to the new government, that I think Mariano Rajoy will need to give to the market soon. I think this is one of the key issues that is driving the market, which is still uncertainty about this. The key issues that this government needs to tackle, first is unemployment, but second, and very important I think, is the issue within the banks. We all know that there is a lot of toxic product in the banks, and until this is solved, there is going to be no credit in Spain. So I think this is one of the key things that Mariano Rajoy needs to tackle very, very soon.
Mr. Fernandez, I'd like to bring you in here to talk about this banking issue. There is an awful lot of property on the bank's books, and some of it is simply unsellable. Would you agree with that? There's been a figure of about $30 billion put on this by one risk advisor. How does a bank cut its debt if it can't sell the assets?
Well, I think first of all, I think we have to make clear that there will be no quick turnaround in the Spanish economy. There will be no miracles in the markets. I think that whatever the new Spanish government does will not produce immediate results. I mean, we're in for a long crisis that has to do a lot with European issues and some with Spanish issues. Now, one of the main Spanish issues, as you mentioned, is the health of the bank system, and in fact, the quality of the portfolio. And I do agree with the previous comment I heard about the need to be open about the bad quality of the bank. In fact, the idea of creating a bad bank sort of needs to be, I think this idea has been floated, and I think it would be a very good idea. I think the new government is contemplating that possibility. There have been studies being done that talk about the need to have about 100 billion euros in place to be able to deal with whatever impaired assets are there in the banks. Now, of course, the problem is this bad bank has to be financed. For the bad portfolio to be taken out of the bank's balance sheets, somebody has to buy it, and it has to have the money to buy it. Currently, the Spanish Treasury doesn't have the money, so we need to have to go to the EFSF. And the EFSF, the European facility for this purpose, has not been fully, it's not yet fully in place. And I think this is, postponing the decision. But I think the government has, in my view, most of the economists within the Partido Popular, probably some of the ministers in the new cabinet, have already said that this is necessary. I just hope that this will be the case.
Fernando Acuna, if we just look at the idea of a bad bank, Ireland did it, but then by the time Ireland did it, they also had IMF, and the IMF was involved, the Troika was involved in Ireland. Can Spain do it? Is it a good way out for Spain?
I think this is one of the ways of doing this. I think the key thing is that we are facing around today like 300,000 properties that is in the hands of the bank, and this number will multiply by maybe 2 in the next 2-3 years. On top of that, we have a lot of land, which it's unlikely to be sold, and the same with developments. So I think we need, in a way, to cut all this piece, which is very difficult to sell, and put it in a different place, and make sure that the banks can continue doing their activity and granting credits to the people. Because if not, it's not going to happen. I mean, if they are attached to the houses and the land, they will not be able to continue granting loans.
This is the important point about all of this, isn't it? That it's not just for their own sake, it's the fact that otherwise they cannot lend to small and medium-sized businesses, and that, of course, is what Spain needs for growth.
Yeah, because this is what we see. I mean, we are selling for banks, and we are seeing every day that it's very difficult to get a mortgage. The key thing is that as banks has their problems in their balance sheets, they are not able to do anything else. So as you said, I mean, we need in a way to split the problem in two. One is, okay, let's see what we do with all these assets, and then let's the economy and let's the bank continue with their with their activity to make sure that people can get credit.
Fernando Fernandez, will the banks survive? Should they all survive?
Some of them, most of them will survive. Not all of them will survive, and not all of them need to survive. I think one of the lessons that we have learned from this crisis, as from any previous real estate bubble that burst, is that the financial system, of course, gets into problems, and some of the banks will not be able to make it. Now, this is why it's so important that this bad bank procedure takes place as soon as possible, that the government finds the money at the EFSF to be able to do this purchase of bad assets. Now, in doing that, some of the banks will not have enough capital to cope with the losses, because, of course, the Treasury will have to buy these assets below book value, and this will mean a loss, obviously, for the commercial banks holding these assets in their balance sheet. Now, some of these banks will not make, and I think this is important. I mean, we have to realize that after a banking crisis, some banks will not be able to be profitable nor solvent anymore, and we should not be afraid to liquidate some banks. Now, fortunately for the Spanish economy, the large banks, the systemic banks, because they're highly internationalized, because they're only exposed around 1/3 to 50% to the domestic market, they have other sources of revenue, other sources of income, so they will not be subject to serious difficulties. They may have a couple of years where they may not be able to distribute profits, but they will not have in any way solvency problems. So I think the numbers are important, but we shouldn't be talking about a systemic banking crisis in Spain. I think the problem is localized in certain institutions. Some of them are larger than we anticipated, this is true. Of the total amount of real estate assets, 300 billion in the bank's balance sheets, one could estimate a loss of whatever, 50%, let's say. That will give us 150 billion.
Okay.
Now, the banks have some capital, have some provision, so we wouldn't need more than 100 billion. This is the point I wanted to make.
Okay. Fernando Fernandez, thank you very much indeed for joining me from Madrid, and Fernando Acuna from Taurus Iberica Asset Management. Thank you very much indeed for being here with us in the studio.